This is a video about functions. This is just explaining the beginnings of functions and how we're going to use these. So a function is a x and a y that go together. Okay. Now these x's and y's, sometimes they're written as a list of ordered pairs. For instance, this one. Okay, these are a list of ordered pairs. You can also see them with the squigglies, which show that they are a set of numbers. Okay, sometimes these numbers can be written in a graph form or a table form. So I'm going to just go ahead and write some of these again. This is my x, this is my y. This is my x, this is my y. This is my x, this is my y, and etc. Okay, that's another way to show a function. You can also show it by doing something called a map. Okay, so this is my x side, this is my y side. I'm going to look at some of these here. So -2 is my x, 2 is my y. -1 is my x, 3 is my y. 0 is my x, 4 is my y. So when I look at these, they match up. Okay? When you have exactly one x, so exactly one x matches to one y, okay, which is what you see here. I have different x's, they each match to a different y. Then it is a function. Okay, some examples, let's see here. And you can also look at a graph. I'm not going to look at too many of those just because it's harder on here to graph them. But if I had, for instance, 0 goes to 1, 1 goes to 5, 3 goes to 10, 2 goes to 15, and 1 goes to 20. Okay, so I have a 0, a 1, a 3, a 2. Nobody's repeated yet. They're each going to different numbers. We're happy. That's a function. But all of a sudden, I have the same x going to 2 different numbers. Okay, what this would look like on a map is this: 0, 1, 3, 2, and it would be mapping 0 mapped to 1, 1 mapped to 5, 3 mapped to 10, 2 mapped to 15, and all of a sudden 1 mapped to, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, 20. Right here, this is not a function. Okay, your x must match to 1y. So this is not a function. Okay, if you see the same x and they have different numbers here, this is not going to be a function. Okay, because 1x does not match to 1y. Okay, the way I like to explain this is in the Bible when they catch the adulterous woman and they throw her at Jesus' feet. That lady had more than one y, male. Okay, we don't let adultery. Okay, see how one x goes to one y, one Eve goes to one Adam, one Eve goes to one Adam, one Eve goes to one Adam. That's a function. That's the way God described it. But this is not a function because our Eve went to y, went to that 5 and went to the 20, and that is not allowed. Okay, now let's see here. There are other times when you are given a graph, and I'm just going to sketch one, okay? And you can find out if this is a function by using the vertical line test. So we take a vertical line and we run it through, And I see that it only touches once in each time. So my paper didn't touch 2 spots, right? This would touch 2 spots, but we're doing the vertical line test. When I use the vertical line test, this is a function. And I know that because I used my vertical line test and it didn't touch 2 places at once. So vertical line test. Okay. But sometimes we might have a function that looks like this. Okay. Well, this one, when I run my vertical line through, I can see there's a spot there and a spot there. They both have the same x value. That is not allowed. So that x, let's say it's 1, had 1 and we'll call that 3. Okay, so it had the ordered pair 1, 1 and 1, 3. But this x went to 2 different y's, and that is not allowed. Okay. With functions, we also look at domain and range. So I'm going to get rid of this, and we're going to go back here and use our original problem. Okay. Domain is your x values. They are also known as your input, and they are also your independent variable. Okay. So when I look at this example above, I'm going to go all the way back to this one. My domain is the set of -4, -3, -2, -1, and 0. That is my domain. That is my x values. Okay. Domain is independent, meaning something like if I was making cookies, my sugar is independent. It's just sugar. It isn't anything else. But when I take my sugar and my flour and my egg and I throw all those things into my mixing bowl, I make my cookies. Well, my cookies depend on the sugar, the flour, and such. So the other one we're going to talk about is range. Range is your y values, which means it is the output. It's what comes out when you put something in. For instance, if I work so many hours a week at, let's say, Culver's or something, my input is how many hours, but my output is the money I get paid. My hours is independent, but my money that I make is dependent. It depends on how many hours I worked. My cookies depend on what ingredients I put in. Okay. So our range is still a set of numbers. I'm going to look up here again, and I'm going to use the y value. So this time 4, 3, 2, and I don't need to write a 3 again because I already have one. And I don't need to write a 4 again because I already have one. So here is my range. And sometimes they repeat, and that's perfectly fine. All right. So that is an overview of functions.